Hello, welcome back to Called to Homeschool with me, Meg, your homeschool guru, and I have a very, very special guest today. I have my very lovely daughter, Tess, on the podcast today. If you are watching us on YouTube, you'll see I still only have one mic, so it makes me really fun and interesting. So we'll be sharing the mic back and forth. What I've done all the time with my kids, I guess I could have had you go into another room and just record this on Zoom, do an interview. But Tess has decided to graduate. When did you decide to graduate? It was just recent.
About like the first week of April.
Was it? I wasn't in May. I feel like, no, you're right. It
In
was in
April,
April.
yeah.
Okay. So Tess would quote unquote be a junior this year, but she decided she's done. And we hurry and got her graduated. I guess we basically just declare graduation. So we're gonna be, I love interviewing my kids and just getting like their thoughts. So Tess, why don't you do like a little introduction of who you are, things you like, and then I'll start grilling you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm 17. I really enjoy speech and debate and mock trial, so anything competitive speaking wise and just debating I really enjoy. I really love reading. I enjoy philosophy and just studying religion and philosophy is just really interesting to me. I'm applying to go to BYU this winter semester and just planning on working until then.
Okay, so awesome. Tess is cool. She was the baby when I decided, like, hey, this is a good idea. Why don't I homeschool? So Tess was the one, she's kid number five, and she's the one where my body shut down. It wasn't your fault. It was my own body's fault. And so, like, she was born and my body started shutting down. That's when I started having seizures. My kidneys shut down. Like five back-to-back pregnancies is rough on your body. And that was the year that I decided to homeschool. So she was maybe 5 or 6 months old at the time. I'm trying to think. But so that's all you've ever known, right? You've never done preschool or right? Anything like that? No?
No, never have.
Okay. So give us some overview of what have been some of your favorite things about homeschooling.
I was actually thinking about this as far as like some of my favorite things we did homeschooling wise, and this is just kind of like a funny one that we always did is that a lot of times when we would learn things, we'd learn them through song, and I absolutely love it. And I remember like the majority of the songs that like my friends will be talking about like countries in South America, and I'm like, do you want me to sing an entire song about that? So that's a really big highlight. Is I really enjoyed the singing. I always thought that was really, really fun. And I always enjoyed the read alouds and just like group time as a family when we would do like group like learning sessions.
Mm-mm.
Those are always some of my favorite things. And so that's what I always remember when I think of like my favorite homeschool memories.
What have been some of your favorite read alouds?
Ooh, that's a great question. I loved Understood Betsy.
I love
Moon Over Manifest
Oh,
was a really good
that's
one.
a good one.
I remember liking Ivanhoe. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember
You were
liking it.
really little when I did that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I think those are the ones that really stick out.
What about the one that I read to you and Bella in your
Oh,
bed?
Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farms. I loved that
Yes.
one.
That one was great. Did you like oh what's the rabbit one? The where the rabbit battles green and the green ember?
I loved those books. I reread them like last
Oh,
year.
you know which one Tess loved when you were really little? Was Hatchet.
Oh, yes, I loved Hatchet, and then I found a hatchet, and then I would like store it under the
Yes.
stairs and play with a hatchet.
If that's not a homeschooled kid, I don't know what is. If you haven't read Hatchet, this cute kid has to survive in the Canadian Rockies alone, and all he has is a hatchet. So Tess really took that one to heart. That is hilarious, Tess. What have been, so I'm talking about like before you did, because when my kids become teenagers, that's when I let them do, and not that I don't ever let them, but I feel like they really need more interaction with their peers and maybe an outside teacher. So before then, so definitely during those elementary years, it's all just at home. So what were some of your favorite subjects? You said like singing was obviously hilarious, but like what were some of your favorite subjects that we would learn when you were still at home doing all your school?
I always loved literature and art. I always liked the books we'd read about that and the people we would study, but I always loved language arts and like English/grammar. I always thought that was really fun, and I always really liked the course books we did with those ones.
Yeah.
So I loved that we did a lot of books. I'd like just reading.
Reading the books, yes. Oh, we did a deep dive of World War II, remember?
Mhm.
Just recently, a couple
Yeah.
years ago. Tessa and I got to go to Germany What year was it? 2023?
Yeah, October of 2023.
Yeah, so in 2023, my brother was living in Berlin with his family, and Tess and I got to go, and we had done a huge dive because remember we read like the Italian books and German books and like all the books. And so my brother was living in Berlin and took us through all the sites in Berlin and like Checkpoint Charlie and where else? Like Nuremberg
We went
and
to like Dachau.
Dachau. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, that was really, really fun. Okay, what have been this? I just got this question the other day about homeschooling through the high school years. And so I would love to know, like, just tell people what you did, but and then what you liked about it.
Yeah, so when I turned 15, I started college with Southern New Hampshire
Sorry,
University.
I'm gonna have you go back even sooner before that because like you did speech and debate
Oh,
and stuff
yeah,
at
yeah,
like
yeah,
teenage years.
yeah. Okay, so when I was 13, I started doing speech and debate. It's like a homeschool speech and debate league in Utah and parts of like Arizona and Wyoming.
And they're online too.
Yeah, they're online and in person, and my brother Josh and I started them together. And I did that for 4 years, and I really, really liked it. It's just like competitive tournaments every month and class every week, and you just get to hang out with a lot of people, make a lot of good friends, and have really, really awesome life lessons and debate lessons. And then through speech and debate, I got introduced to mock trial, which became my life over the past 2 years. And so I really enjoy mock trial. It's just like speech and debate, but in a courtroom essentially, and that's been really fun. So I've been doing that pretty much the same amount of time I've been doing online school. So when I was 15, I started college at Southern New Hampshire University, and I enjoyed that program. It was frustrating and difficult sometimes, but I really enjoyed the way it was set up. That I felt like it was easy to understand, and especially as someone who'd never like learned in a traditional schooling sense, it definitely was easier to understand the competency based rather than class based. So I enjoyed that, and I feel like I actually learned a lot of things about how business is run, how to interact in a workplace. Like, although I didn't love what I was studying, it did teach me a lot about business and workplace practices.
Yeah. So Tess is doing something different than any of my kids have done before. So my oldest, I've talked, Ethan, he is my only high school graduate. The rest of you are homeschool dropouts, high school dropouts, I guess. And it was a local charter school that's completely changed their setup, but it was just 2 days a week and it was all concurrent enrollment classes, but with a live teacher. So he was getting college credit. And then after that, my kids started Southern New Hampshire University. So kids 2, 3, and 4 all got their associates. And Tess was the plan originally was to do it and get her associates next year, but she decided to change her mind. So talk about like why you changed your mind and why you're going to apply for an in-person college instead.
I think there's a lot that goes into it. As far as in person and online goes, I found that I learn a lot better in person and especially in a classroom. I tend to be competitive, and
Yes.
so when I have other classmates, it always like you know, and
Motivates you.
incentivizes me, yeah, to do better and to work harder. And so as far as like in-person online goes, that's probably motivating. And then with the program I was doing online, I pretty much could only study business. And although that's interesting, I want to be a journalist and I want to study journalism and I want to study marketing. And so part of the reason I wanted to transfer was also because of that. And also I'd love to move out next year and I just love to experience college. And I mean, I already was in it, so why not apply now? Because I can. So
Yeah. I've made the joke before, like, watch out when you try to create independent children because they leave really young because they're super independent. And so I feel like I handled it pretty well. Like, obviously, I'm sad about it, but she's going to try to move out in the winter semester. And so she's going to try to save up all her monies so that she can do that. But she's ready. And I know she will be. I know I'll miss her. Oh, I'm going to fight a sneeze. Okay. That's funny. Yeah. Okay, so these have been all the highlights. Let's do some lowlights without like completely throwing me under the bus. What was some of your least favorite things about being homeschooled?
that's a good question. Like, not to be like, oh, it's amazing all the time. I really
Right.
did enjoy it. I think something that was hard was I was actually talking about this with a friend the other day that although you're a great teacher, sometimes it was hard that you were the only teacher.
Mm,
That it was like if you couldn't explain something to me, like no one else could, kind of,
mm.
especially when I was younger. And I think that was frustrating sometimes and something I didn't even realize, but it just comes with being teachable and just like learning how to adapt to a teacher. But that was something that was really hard. Um and I mean, obviously, there were books I had to read I didn't love.
Yeah. I feel
Uh
like I got better,
Yeah, I think so. I think when we got
but
to choose what we were reading, it became a lot more interesting and fun, and then it was like, if it was a bad book, it was of my own doing, and so
yeah. I feel like I was following like I love Charlotte Mason, so I'm not dissing anything, but like some of the books that people picked were really old and boring. And so I'm like, well, but it's recommended from this really credible source. And so I'll just have my kids read it. And I think it's when I started trying to read the books too with you guys that I was like, oh, gag, a bunch of these are boring. So I think then they got a lot better because I was reading them as well. But I definitely agree that there were some that I think I've actually donated because I thought these are trash. I'll never, not that they were like bad, like naughty or inappropriate or anything like that. They're just boring. And I
yeah.
feel like our books now are way more exciting, way more engaging, and like you are like true living books that you want to know more. And I feel like just because sometimes people will say, like, well, they were written in the 1920s, so it must be better. But sometimes the vocabulary is really boring for us, and the storylines don't like follow like they've just gotten people have gotten better, become better storytellers sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents with that. What about is there anything you felt like you missed out on from traditional school by being homeschooled?
I mean, people always make the joke about, homeschoolers don't have any social life, and I don't think that's true objectively. But I think with that it's definitely, like, we don't get to see people as much as people do in public school, and I remember it was maybe last year, 2 years ago that I was thinking about that a lot, that, like, we went to, like, a high school football game,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, how fun that, like, you just get to have people around them all the time." That maybe there was a bit of that I missed out on, but for the most part, I feel like I've made really good friends, and I'm not super needing to, like, hang out with people all the time, so I'm chill, just chilling at home,
Yeah.
so
You are you don't need as much social interaction as some of the kids have. But it was interesting. I know exactly what football game she's talking about. We went to go support cousins that were actually playing against each other. And it was the first time that she was like, wait a minute, this could have been awesome.
yeah.
So did you ever want to actually go to school, or was it just like that football game that you're like, oh, I think I liked this part, or like tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, part of it me was thinking about it, like, I don't think I ever genuinely considered, like, going to high
Mm.
school, but part of me was like, "Oh, I love learning in a class, that would've been really fun," and then having friends all the time, it was just the idea of it, and then it's nothing you can't get while you're at college, in my opinion, and then it's, like, a higher education things you actually wanna learn about, so I never, like, genuinely wanted to actually go to high school, but I know we tried to do concurrent enrollment at the high school,
That was
which
a
was
nightmare.
nightmare trying to figure that out. But I definitely I don't think I don't regret not, like, going.
So would you down the road, you're married, you have children, what do you think you would do, like homeschool or no homeschool your own kids?
I think I definitely homeschool my kids. If you know me, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, kinda
A bit.
anti-government. And so part of me like, if my kids were to go to school, they'd probably go to a private school, but I'd rather teach them. I enjoy
Mm.
teaching and
That's what the part I love. Like I get it, like, some schools are better than other schools, but I think but I wanna be with my kids, like, I love our relationship, I love the time we have together, I love all that part, and I just think I don't wanna give that away, like, I'm the one who grew you, like, I wanna actually hang out with you, so,
Yeah.
like, I totally feel that. Is there anything you would do differently? Like, okay, you're homeschooling now, I know you sing the songs, but, like, is there anything that you're like, "We are not doing this?"
That's a good question. I never even thought about that.
'Cause it was just so magical
They're so
always.
amazing all the time.
Uh,
Something that I know you guys don't do this anymore, but I really didn't like it when we did it, is when we had timers
yeah, I was
on
thinking about this the other day.
that when we would read books and when we had to, like, narrate them on, like, piece of paper or orally, and it was like you had 10 minutes and 5 minutes, and I think all of us hated it.
Mhm.
But I couldn't stand it because it was like you'd finish drawing a picture in, like, 2 minutes, you'd be like, "I don't know what to add, shading, I guess," and so it
Yeah.
just felt, like, pointless sometimes.
You know, it's funny, I was thinking about that, and part of the reason I started doing this so it was a timer, and I got them all timers, so you would read for 10 minutes and you would narrate for 5 minutes, and I'm sure I heard it from somebody of, like, "This is the best way to do it," and, like, so many of us do, we're like, "Well, then I better do that." Part of the reason was sometimes a kid would read too long, and like wouldn't get any of their other schoolwork done. And then sometimes it was like they'd read a sentence. So it was kind of to teach to read a little bit longer. And so I was thinking about it because Brigham, who's 14, has never had to do that. And he gets all his stuff done. And his narrations aren't as fun though. That's the one part I miss because they had to do 5 minutes. So they would like create comics and stories, and his are like one sentence. But I wondered if it was more I was trying to teach a principle and I kept it too long. Like, here's the idea. Let's do it for a couple weeks or even a month, and then let's get rid of them. And I think
Yeah.
that would have just helped some people who Ethan would just read one book all day long, right? And then like maybe Josh would be like, I did it. I did one word. I did one sentence, right? And so I think I just needed to maybe then take it away sooner than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think the principle was there, and I think it helped me. As far as the reading goes, I actually didn't mind the 10-minute reading. I think it was just the 5-minute
Yeah.
narrations that I really just didn't like. But yeah, I think that's true. I think the principle is sound.
What about high school years? Would you keep your kids home for high school years, or do you ever wish you went to public school during high school years? So would you want your kids to have that experience? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the kid,
Mm.
honestly. Like, I know because Ethan, Tico, and Bella all did Lumen, like the charter school you're talking about earlier. And I think that was good for them in certain ways and it's bad in certain ways. And
Yeah,
I think
Bella
it just,
never went in person.
yeah. And so I think it just depends. I don't know how much I'd be in favor of my kids going to a public school in general, but if they're like, you know, dead set on going to a school, I'm sure we could always figure something out.
Yeah. That's something I hear in coaching a lot. Like people are like, my kids really want to go. And I feel like you have to trust your intuition on that because like ultimately you're the parent. And like what if a kid's like, I really think I should drink alcohol? Right? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But like something like that. I really think I should start having sex at 15 or just something like that, that you're just like, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, and I've even told parents, like, I know in Utah, and each state has their different laws, but Utah, you can register for just a class or a couple of classes. So even just trying it out, because usually it's like what you were saying, like just having a lot of kids there and that interaction part. But there's a lot of other stuff that comes with the high school. I mean, when did I graduate? How many years ago? Like 25 years ago, right? And so how much they have I don't know the right word. How terrible they are now. Like before it was just like pornography and some alcohol, maybe some sex, and now it's like this whole other thing of
Like the culture.
the cult, but like you have way more homosexuality and transgendered stuff, and now there's more shootings, like all of these things at school that I feel like I don't know that I could send my kid there, right? So obviously I like homeschool, so I will just keep doing that. Okay, I want to ask you about being raised in the Thomas household. What are some things that so obviously, I teach about families. If you didn't know, you know now, Tess. So, what are some things like from your perspective? What has it been like growing up in a family that try to prioritize a family culture and I'll get into levels of liberty in a second too.
Yeah, it's actually something I think we are talking about yesterday that I feel like family was always very important. That it wasn't like even extended family and our own family spending time together was always important. Because our family would go hiking every week, we'd go camping a lot, we'd go on trips together. And one of my favorite things is in our family mission statement. I don't actually know the entire thing, but the only sentence I remember is the if someone needs help, we come running.
Yes.
And so I think that's something we actually really implemented a lot that I know that if I called any one of my siblings in a moment of need, like they'd come, they'd drop everything, they come to me. And we all go to each other's baseball games and we go to
Yeah.
each other's plays. And if I asked you to, you come to a debate tournament or you watch a mock trial online. And so I just think that I always really appreciated that we loved and supported each other. And that was like, I think that was a goal you and dad had that manifested well because
Thank
you
you.
did it. Because you came to all the things, you came running, you just loved us.
Yes.
So I always appreciated that.
Thank you. I am obsessed with my kids. I think they are the best. What about like family meetings? What are your thoughts on family meetings? Man, they're all over the place, aren't they? What like if you okay, so family meetings, yes or no to them, and then like why, yes or no, and parts you like, parts you don't like.
So I'm definitely a hard yes on family meetings. Um, as someone who just likes efficiency and things to be done as quickly as possible. Sometimes it can be frustrating, especially when I'm running them. I'm like, "All right, let's move on." But,
My gosh, and my dad goes off on a tangent.
let's talk about Greek.
Yeah.
But, so I definitely I understand the purpose of family meeting, and as someone who likes to plan and likes to put everything into my calendar and just to write things down, I always find it very useful. And it honestly, like the weeks we don't do family meeting, I'm always like, "Wait, what are we doing this week? Like, what are?"
I'm off the
Yeah,
whole week.
no, actually, and it's so I understand its purpose, and I feel like it gives us a lot of structure, and also the whole like compliments and concerns section. I feel like it helps us not only be cohesive, but, like, love each other through hard times, and it's
Mhm.
like, there are some things that get brought up every week, and there are things that are, like, big ordeals that we take hours talking about, but it was, like, always that we came up to solutions together,
Yes.
and that it was never like, "Oh, mom and dad come up with an arbitrary rule." It's, "Okay, we came up with a solution. Why do we have it? What's its purpose?" Everyone agrees upon it, and so I understand. I really liked that.
You said that very beautifully. It's been funny, the thing that has been coming up every week has been the little boys and Legos. And there have been Lego pieces on the floor, and I keep stepping on them, and I am tired of it. And it was interesting because, like, every week it was then the other brother would be like, okay, fine. Like, nothing was happening. So he said, okay, what do you think we could do? Because this is getting brought up every single week. And so the part of the problem was with the youngest, everybody, all the big kids who don't play with Legos anymore, all gave the little bonus baby all their Legos. So he had so much that it couldn't even fit in the containers that I'd gotten him. So we got rid of most of them and yeah, solved the problem. It was awesome. Okay, what are your thoughts about levels of liberty? Now, if you have been listening to me for a while, levels of liberty is what I use I utilize it to help them to become independent adults, and we utilize it in our school, and it's teaching them skills in finances, emotions, mental, physical, social, and spiritual. So in order to have more liberties and more freedoms like a cell phone or being able to drive the car, to date, sleepovers, different things like that, getting on YouTube, you have to build skills and habits in certain areas to earn it. So that's the tiny little segment about it. So what are your thoughts about levels of liberty? Because you've always known it, right? Okay. So what are your thoughts?
I have always been a fan. I mean, I feel like it always just made sense to me that it was like, yeah, if you want more privileges, you just do more work. And so I feel like it always made sense to me that way, that it was like when I was working for privileges. But definitely as I've gotten older, like I've told you about this, we've talked about this a lot, that it was like it just makes sense, but it like taught me so many amazing things. Like the only reason I read my scriptures every day and I shower and I brush my teeth is because of levels of liberty. That was like it was, like, incentivizing you with things that, like, help you, but you don't even
Mhm.
realize, and, like, letting you be more responsible, and to the point where there's like, we have bedtimes on certain levels just in our house, and there's a certain level you hit that you get to,
Have
choose your
your
own
bedtime.
bedtime. Yeah, and so when I got there, my bedtime had been, like, 9:30 consistently, and I got there and I was like, "I don't wanna stay up later," and so I just chose 9:30 as my bedtime from then on, and it just felt like over the years, although I was, like, working for this, like, crazy independence where I didn't have to do anything, it was like when you get there, it's like, "Oh, wait, actually, I wanna be responsible." So I've always been a fan. I think you executed it very wonderfully, and what I really liked the way we did it is that it was personalized.
Mhm.
That when we first started, it was like each level is a different liberty, but then it became, "Okay, what do you wanna work for next, and how are we gonna do that? What do you wanna improve in each 6 a areas?" Successful 6 is that you call them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they were called FEMSISs. So
We're still
so
called that.
yeah, so homie call that. Yes, I learned very quickly that it needed to be individualized because, like you're saying, um, like bedtime, like you earned it and it wasn't that's not you sorry, that wasn't something that was super motivating for you, but for another kid, like a smartphone or something was super motivating, or to be able to do a sleepover or something was very motivating. I am not a fan of sleepovers, FYI. I actually make that be a skill like past 16, a liberty past 16. I'm not a fan of those. Tess knows my rant on that. But yes, I love Tess just took to it. There was a couple kids that didn't fight it, and she was one of them. So it just I even think the big kids too, when they hit like no bedtime, that I know Tico would like stay up a little bit later, but he was never grumpy. And like Bella tried one time staying up till 11, like, this is awesome. And then was like, well, okay, that's kind of stupid. Now I'm tired. But Josh actually never wanted to not have a bedtime.
Oh, I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, and so he wanted the flexibility that if friends were doing something and there was like a party going on or he was hanging out, that there could be flexibility. But if it's just a normal night and we're just home, that he had a 9:30 bedtime. So it was kind of interesting because he was the one who fought it the most, and he ended up loving it the most, I feel like, at the end. So is that something that you would do for you? Well, actually, let me ask you first, is there anything you would have changed about how we do levels of liberty in our family?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I think the way it evolved, I really, really
Mhm.
appreciate. I don't see it like at this point, I don't know how much I even have at levels of liberty. Like, I just like it's just kind of like I got to a certain point and was like, oh yay.
Yeah.
And obviously if I'm struggling, if I'm not doing anything right, like, and then if I'm like, oh, actually I want this, then it's like we'll talk about it. But obviously it hasn't been a big thing in my life, probably for the past 2 years.
Probably just a year, I think. You think two?
I think so.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was, like, when I was 15 that I was, like, at that point, I just gotten everything that I was like, "At this point, I'm."
Yeah, but you were it's probably because you weren't fighting it
Yeah.
like some of your other siblings.
Yeah, but I think with that, that maybe I'd keep levels of liberty as a more ever present,
Mm,
um, not, like, guideline, I guess, like, a guideline in my kid's life. Like, I don't mind the way, and I'm not saying, like, "Now you have to be super strict with me again," but
I'm
it's
not going to.
not that you were ever, like, crazy strict, but, that's just something maybe I'd think about with my kids is, like, keeping that there, work like, checking in more, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like when with certain kids, I think I have to check in more. Yours
Mhm.
is more now like, "Oh, did you take your phone? Oh, your chores done?" I think that's your only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I guess you answered kind of both of my questions at the same time with that. Yes. Okay, let's talk about, because you're not super social, and I don't mean that as a dig, but you know what I mean? Like, if friends aren't
Yeah.
they're motivating to you, but not like every single day. You could be home for several days and be like, "I'm fine." So, how do you feel like, because I hate the argument about socialization in schools and homeschoolers. What are all your thoughts about that?
I think it's propaganda. No, I don't think it actually is, but I do think it's pretty ridiculous to say that it's like even other homeschoolers that are like, "Oh, like we never get to see people." I think it's because they're not trying hard enough, not to be mean. But that is my opinion that it's like I was talking about this with a friend one time that like when homeschoolers are like, "Oh, like we don't get that much social interaction." I just think it's because they're not putting in the work to do that because they aren't forced every day to be with people doesn't mean you can't be with people every day. Like I had classes. I remember one year I did like a 2-day a week class, and so it was almost every day of the week I was seeing people, like seeing friends going out in a class doing things just the same way any public or private schooler would. And so I think it really just takes hard work and dedication that if you really want that, then work for it and like go after it. And you really can see people. You can have this pretty much the same amount of social interaction if you want. And I think it's just a matter of whether you actually want it or it's just something you say.
Yeah, it's whether or not you're willing to put in the work to get what you want,
Yeah.
right? Because even though at public school you have more kids there, it's not always the best influence. And so to me, I always say, like, I love what I get to do because I get to cherry pick kids. Because we remember we did Little Ladies Club,
Mhm.
and, I don't remember how many girls did you have? Do you remember?
I think
Like
like
10?
10.
Yeah. And, like, Wednesday afternoons, a couple times a month, they'd come over and we would do an activity. Then we did a book club when you were a little bit older, and that was fantastic because they would read a book and then they would, like, have a party for it and dress up as the characters. And so I just feel like if you're whatever you want to create, you just have to be willing to put in the effort to do it. And so public school feels easier because you don't have to put in the effort. It's like, oh, here are kids. But like when you put in the effort, you get kids that help your kids to be the best version of themselves versus like these kids might take you down a path you don't want to go, but at least they're kids, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of my thoughts with that. Okay, so what would you say them to like your whole life has been homeschooled. So if you had a mom come to you and just like, oh, okay, because I feel like people do this with my adult kids of just like, okay, you didn't turn out to be a weirdo. There's hope for my children too. So if you saw a new mom who was like, I'm going to homeschool and I'm so worried, what would you tell a new homeschool mom to focus on or to do in her homeschool? Or like, what advice would you give her?
That's so great. Actually, something the first thing that popped into my head is we had a lot of fun. We played lots of games, we sang songs, we just, like we would do battle of the brains, like, competitive, like, weird things that, like, they're kind of random, but we just had a lot of fun, and I think because I read your, like, 30 Days to Ease into Homeschooling book, because you know me, but, one of the first ones I remember is just connect, play a game, and so that's something I think I really appreciated and I'd recommend to anyone is just connect, play a game, have fun, make school fun. Like, it can be fun for the teacher. Like, I imagine you had a fun time playing games with us, singing songs with us. And so I think that's what I'd say. Just
Yeah.
have fun.
Anything you would warn them against?
Yeah, I think not making it a like yeah, it's about education, but I think I'd remind them it's like one of my favorite quotes. It's either by Aristotle or Socrates, I can never remember, but it's education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. And I think that's something I'd remind them of. It's just like sometimes you need to take a step back, look at the kid's perspective. Like, okay, am I trying to encourage them to be a lifelong learner or just a learner in general? Or am I just trying to cram information in their head because I feel like it's best for them? And I think there's a balance in like, what you're teaching and what your kid wants. But I think that's something I remind them of. It's just like being very mindful of that.
What would you tell a parent that's going to have a kid in high school age or teenage years that are starting to panic of like, I've got to teach my kid all these things. How will they ever get into college? What would you do? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful thing with homeschooling is it doesn't have to be the parent all the time. Is that like classes exist and online courses? Like a lot of our math was textbooks and we did a lot of online math.
I don't know
Um,
that we did a lot. I think I tried it for
I think
one
we did
year.
it for I did teaching textbooks for 2 or 3 years.
I did not.
And so yeah, but all I'm saying is like there are options out there and there are classes you can take and if they're, nervous about it that I think it's this nervousness comes from a place of more of insecurity rather than, "Is my kid gonna be okay?" It's more like, "Am I okay to be doing this?" And I think that there's always another path, and it doesn't have to be the parent all the time, you know what I mean? You can take intentional classes, but if the parent really wants it to be them, then they can all like, you can learn it too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would say I think not insecurity, but fear.
Yeah.
Just fear of the unknown, fear if I could do it. Because I even remember when Ethan hit junior high, I was like, "Oh, no, what am I doing?" And then I was like, "Oh, I got this." And then he hit high school and was like, "Oh, no, what am I doing?" And now every kid, I'm like, "It's fine. I'll figure it out." And when Tess said she wanted to graduate, like, "Well, I think I'm done homeschooling." First, I was like, "What?" Like, I thought I had another year left, you stinker. Right. But it's like, okay, so she is, how many college credits do you have?
I have 37.
Okay, so she has 37 college credits, and so she is just applying to BYU Provo as a transfer student, and she's figuring it all out. And if it doesn't work, then she'll figure something else out. And so I just, I'm so proud of her. She is an absolute delight to have as a daughter, and so amazing to like. I am so lucky that I got my Tessie girl. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for being an amazing kid, and it'll be fun to just follow along and keep seeing what you're up to. So, anything else that you want to end with?
I think, enough said, but thanks for being such a great mom. Hi podcast people, but yeah, I'm really glad that you did what you did with schooling. I think it definitely shaped me into the person I am. I'd be a very different person, I think, if I went to school. Um, Maybe not in a bad way, but definitely I like who I am. I like what my plans are, and I'm excited for the future. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Have a great one, friends.